As you look at the handout, I'm going to talk about spiritual listening with an openness of the heart, a challenge and a task. Human listening. Why listen? Why to listen? Listening is the willingness to have your mind changed. Listening is the willingness to have your mind changed, either positively or negatively. It is more than hearing some words in different modulations. It is with your entire person, body, and mind. So listening is not only with some words or phrases or some clauses, but it is the entire person. So the listening involves the entire person. I have given you some important information you might not have known. Some information about the human communication. Talking speed of every person, average talking speed of every person is 125 words per minute. Have you ever thought about this? No, certainly not. And the listening speed is 400 words per minute. And thinking speed, 900 words per minute. So these numbers tell us that we think faster than we speak. And we listen way ahead of the speaker's talking speed. You can listen 4 times faster than they can speak. For the speaker, he or she can think 9 times faster than he or she can speak. These are our capacities. Do we realize? So this is a basic information about some communication nuances. These numbers tell us that we think faster than we speak, and we listen way ahead of the speaker's talking speed. But listening is a state of mind, not only hearing, as I said at the outset. It is not hearing something, it is a state of mind. Listening starts before the conversation commences. Sometimes we come here by compulsion. Oh, we have to go, otherwise what the dean would think. Some of you would come like that. So no, we have to go. After 1 year we are going, let us see what the new fellow is going to talk about. So with various mindset we come, isn't it? So listening starts before the conversation commences with all these prejudged concepts, what we call prejudices. Prejudices also could be positive, isn't it? Are we really good listeners? Are we really good listeners? An example I would like to cite here. December 30th, 2019, Dr. Lee Wen Yelong sends a private message to his medical alumni and alerts them. 7 confirmed cases of SARS were reported from Huanan Seafood Market, China. January 3rd, 2020, a reprimand from local police for spreading false information and a further threat of punishment if he does not stop spreading the information he received. And on January 10th, 2020, Dr. Lee develops a cough and admitted in the hospital. The virus he has contracted is SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. Friday, February 7th, 2020, Dr. Lee succumbs to COVID-19 and dies. In June 2020, the global death toll for COVID-19 was 500,000. By March 2022, 6 million people had died. Was there anyone listening to the warning given by one single man? Dr. Zhang Jixiang noticed a viral variation in the diagnosis of an elderly couple on December 26, 2019. She reported it to the Center for Disease Control. Was anyone listening? What does it mean to listen, basically? To listen, we need to pay attention. That is generally a peripheral attention. For example, I have given in the outline that when you are flying, in the flight, there is a routine information given. No? The crew comes in front of you and says, these are the things you have to fasten your seat belt, and in case of emergency, do this, do that. Also, this was routine. So you pay attention to it. If you are flying for the first time, you will certainly listen to it. But then, giving attention is something different. When the captain comes on the mic, while we are flying on the 30,000 miles altitude, he comes on the mic and says, now there is some emergency. There is suddenly emerging in a situation of emergency. So in this situation, you are giving complete and undivided attention. When there is some emergency, we are flying up in the air, 30,000 mile altitude. So we want to know, as the crew explains the exits, you count the number of rows to exit. Your attention narrows, and its focus is precise, because nothing is more important to you than understanding these safety instructions. So you want to know where the exit is, whether I will have an access to that exit. Will there be many people going through that way, or should I have to find another exit? So this is giving attention. The first one is general, peripheral, just a routine we listen to, that is paying attention. This is giving attention. I just want to give you two video clips, one after another, and you just watch the video clips and how a human person can be giving attention all the time, and how we can also do that in our life. The first clip is a Thailand commercial. You will watch it in the video. The first clip about a young man, and you saw what all things he is doing, isn't it? He's not a rich person, very ordinary fellow, but he could do so many good things. So that's what we call giving attention to small little details in our life, just looking around us. So we could listen more than with the words spoken by people. The second one I'm going to give is also about a story of a security guard. Listen to that and watch also. Another beautiful, the heart-rending audio visual, isn't it? So listening is not connected with the words. Listening is always connected with the heart. In the first episode, we saw the Thai commercial. The person did not speak much. He just went about doing small little things, doing good, a lot of good to people. And in the second one, the second episode, but the boss seems to be very strict and stern and a kind of a very unrelenting man. But then the problem was revealed later, he could not hear properly. So listening of the heart does not really relate with the listening of the ear. So the person was so concerned about his security, poor security, God. Therefore, he provided every day. And later on, seeing this, his wife continued to do this through his son, through her son. And her son also was hearing impaired. Very often we tend to ignore all this. We are so used to all this, looking on the streets and many other things, and we go on our own way. A small little charity to persons around us will make a world of difference. So each one of us chooses to be either in the category of paying attention or giving attention. It could also be that sometimes we pay attention and a few other times we give attention depending upon the priority we set in our day-to-day life. Human listening in its depth has a transforming character, as in stories of the young man in Thai commercial and the boss of the security guard. This is in the human level, a deep listening. Then we move on to a spiritual listening. Still further, what could be the different aspects of spiritual listening? The spiritual listening entails deepening one's awareness of self in the cosmos, with the nature and the entire human family, which culminates in the awareness of the transcendence. That makes it spiritual. The spiritual listening, not connected with hearing anyone speaking. It is connected with internal dispositions and attitudes. It is a deep listening within, without words uttered. In a nutshell, it is a listening with a heart that is translated into actions leading to and pointing to the presence of transcendence. A typical example in par excellence would be St. Francis of Assisi. Some of the sisters are here belonging to Francis of Assisi, isn't it? The congregations are here. You might have heard many things about Francis of Assisi. St. Francis is an example par excellence for spiritual listening. He had the most tender affection and devotion toward all things and beings. He had a special and profound love for God's creatures. Some examples, plenty of examples are given in his life story. He took snails off the roads so that they would not be trampled by people. Snails on the roads, on the pathways. For him, kinship is more than human. We always think of kinship, our near and dear ones. My maternal side, paternal side, or my close friends. But he always thought of as a cosmic one. Kinship is cosmic. That is why he was filled with compassion, even toward dumb animals, reptiles, birds, and other creatures, sensible and insensible. For Francis, being in the world was being together with all beings, to love them and to live with them as brothers and sisters at home. How many of us would think like that? A small butterfly or a cricket in the field or a dog or a cat is part of my family. How many of us would think? Francis was so connected to the nature and in love with all beings that he called a cricket, chirping from the nearby fig tree to himself, "My sister cricket, come to me." It immediately got up on his hand. When he said, "Sing, my sister cricket, and praise your Creator with a joyful song," obeying without delay, it began to sing. Francis forbade the brothers to cut trees down at the root, thereby leaving hope that they might grow back. He ordered the gardeners to leave a piece of land free and uncultivated, so that all herbs could grow there, even harmful ones, so that they might announce the beauty of the Father of all things. That is the typical mindset of St. Francis. Our church also teaches us about this. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 340, teaches God wills the interdependence of creatures, the sun and the moon, the cedar and the little flower, the eagle and the sparrow. The spectacle of their countless diversities and inequalities tells us that no creature is self-sufficient. No creature is self-sufficient, including the humans. Creatures exist only in dependence on each other, to complete each other in the service of each other. This number is quoted in Laudato Si of Pope Francis encyclical number 86. Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's." Deuteronomy chapter 10:14 says, "To him belongs the earth with all that is within it." When do we fail in the spiritual listening, or when we lack spiritual listening? When we lack or fail in spiritual listening, it leads to the deterioration of the environment and of society, affecting the most vulnerable people on the planet. That is quoted in Laudato Si 48. Therefore, we need an ecological conversion. What is this ecological conversion? That triggers out the encounter with Jesus Christ, evident in the promotion of relationship with the world around us. To consider the entire nature as part of my living, day-to-day living. Without in synchronization with the nature, I cannot live peacefully and happily. There we must realize. As a result of listening to the words of Jesus, we listen to the cry of the earth. There is a book called Cry of the Earth, Cry of the Poor by a Latin American theologian, Leonardo Boff. It is living our vocation to the protectors of God's handiwork. Laudato Si number 217. The ecological conversion needed to bring about lasting change is also community conversion. So when do we get the conversion, ecological conversion? When we as a community get converted to love the nature, to the surrounding around us. So this conversion calls for a number of attitudes. Number one, it entails gratitude and gratuitousness, a recognition that the world is God's loving gift. Nobody brought anything with you when you were born. You came into the world. The world was already existing. Therefore, you have been given a gift. This world is a gratuitous gift from God. It also entails a loving awareness that we are not disconnected from the rest of creatures, but joined in a splendid universal communion. Laudato Si 22:0. This includes an awareness that each creature reflects something of God and has a message to convey to us. Each creature has something to convey to us. Then there is the recognition that God created the world, writing into it an order and a dynamism that human beings have no right to ignore. God has created everything in order, so you have no right to ignore. You have no right to complain about it, because you are also one among the creature. So you have no right to complain about the snakes coming into your place, because you are in the place of the snake. Where the snakes are supposed to reside, you are residing. So it is not the snake's problem, it is your problem. If you are building a house in the forest, then the snakes are every day coming to your house, cobra and other varieties. Whose problem is it? You are supposed to live in some other place. You have taken over the place of the snakes. So one of the reasons for this, that we think high above every creature, is anthropocentrism. It's a word combined from Greek. Anthropos means the man or human. Centrism is centering the human person as the thing. The interpretation given to the text, Genesis 1:28, that humans have dominion over the earth, has been the cause of unbridled exploitation of nature for long. The biblical texts are to be read in their context with an appropriate hermeneutic. Hermeneutic means interpretation. The text that tells us, till and keep, Genesis 2:15, the garden of the world is to be understood correctly. You are supposed to till and keep. You are not to exploit. You are not deplete. Tilling refers to cultivating, plowing, or working, while keeping means caring, protecting, overseeing, and preserving. This implies a relationship of mutual responsibility between human beings and nature. So you have a responsibility towards the nature. If you are responsible dealing with the nature will respect your need. If you don't respect the need of the nature will not respect your need. So the term anthropocentrism means everything exists solely for the human being. So we have been long given this idea that the human person is the ultimate, is the crown of creation, therefore you do whatever you want. God did not create that way. Hence, everything culminates in the human being. Nothing has intrinsic value. Nothing has otherness and meaning apart from the human being. All beings are at the disposal of human beings to serve as their property and under their control, so that humans may attain their desires and projects. So everything is under my control. I can do anything, whatever I want. No, you are not supposed to. Human beings feel that they are above things rather than alongside and with things, with the nature. They are above. The classic formulation of such anthropocentrism is the statement of Protagoras of Abdera. The year is given in the bracket. The human being is the measure of all things. It is not. That was the understanding of that time. That's why we are suffering nowadays. So remedy for this is panentheism. Panentheism I have given in bracket for the meaning. God in all in God is the meaning of the term panentheism, derived from Greek. Pan means all, en means in, theos, God. The first chapter of John the Gospel. En arche he theos he logos. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. So en means in. This implies God is in all and all is in God. So God is in all is in God. By the reason of the creation by which God leaves God's mark and assurance of God's permanent presence in the creature. So God's presence has to be felt in all the things He has created, all the beings He has created. The creature always depends on God and carries God within it. All the creature carries God's mark, it's His presence. God and the world are different and always intertwined with one another. They are different. God is different and world is different, because world is His creation. God is the creator. But another one would say pantheism, that all is God. God is all. That would be equaling everything with God. That is pantheism. This is panentheism. So this is the vision of St. Francis of Assisi. He had, as he incorporated all beings in the movement of God's transcendence. So he had the vision of panentheism. He saw in every being, every creature, God. That's why he could call cricket my sister. or wolf my brother, or is moon my sister or brother, sun as my brother. You see? But we would always think he was a kind of cuckoo. You know? But now people realize what a great saint he was. So I want to give a good example from the Bible, which is also quoted by Pope Francis from his encyclical Fratelli Tutti. He gives a clear, a beautiful interpretation. I just want to give you a few important points from that. It is the listening of the heart that moves a person beyond all barriers and borders. More often than not, we tend to build walls around ourselves to restrict our potential of a benevolent spiritual listening. A listening that brings us into the presence of the transcendence. The example of Good Samaritan, the parable known by people of all religion all over the world, is elaborately interpreted by Pope Francis in his encyclical Fratelli Tutti, meaning all our brothers. Frater in Latin is brother, tutti means all. It is in Italian. The salient features of the interpretation of the parable are placed before you for your reflection. Number one, the injured man on the roadside was left alone when some important people of social and religious positions passed by. Who are the people who passed by? A priest and a Levite. They were on an important duty that they had no time to care for a man whose life was in danger. So their duty was more important than to save a man lying on the road. But a man with no position of religious or social significance comes forward to spend his money and time for an unknown person, a stranger. Samaritan is not a good friend of a Jew. We don't want to give our time, our precious time. Our time is only for our personal friends and projects. We can't spare even a few minutes for a stranger in dire need. We are also very constrained with our usage of time. I have no time for you. Very often we hear this, I have no time for you. And you have time for what? For whom? The second point is, which of these persons do I identify with? Very straightforward question. The robbers are there. Jesus already has narrated, he was struck down by robbers. Then two people, they are busy going on their duty, and the Samaritan. A straightforward and incisive question puts all of us fidgety. Fidgety, we feel uneasy. When we ask any straightforward question to anybody, especially to priests and sisters, they feel very uneasy. So nothing should touch them, disturb them. It disturbs us. We should admit that many of us are like the Levite and the priest who passed by. We tend to ignore others easily, especially when they are not in our friendly circle, a circle of peer group, language, clan, state, and so on. We are very close to each other. Oh, she belongs to my community, my language group, my congregation. We speak the same language. We come from the same state. So we tend to be such a very narrow-minded people. Pope Francis calls such people as illiterate. Illiterate. Such people are called illiterate by Pope Francis. When we fail to accompany the weak, frail, and vulnerable members of our society, because we have no time for others. Third one is, it is in relationship with others, our brothers and sisters, we come to know ourselves. Do you know about yourself? Any of you? Can you claim that I know myself 100%? Do your parents know about yourself? Do your friends know about yourself? Then what are you claiming? You don't know about yourself. What will you do next minute? You don't know. What will happen to you next minute? You don't know. So in relationship with others, our brothers and sisters, we come to realize what I am becoming, what I should not become. Only in relationship with others, our brothers and sisters. Our hearts beat faster than usual when we see one of our near and dear one is suffering with some serious illness. Our mind and hearts are preoccupied with their state of health, isn't it? Past few days I am receiving in our ordinary message. Our bishop gives a message about somebody is ill and please pray for. So we are very concerned about them. If you know them, we are concerned about them. If they are our brothers and sisters, our parents, we are so preoccupied. But we are not preoccupied with a man next door who is suffering from terminal illness, a cancer, a lady outside our gate, a person who is struggling to feed their family. We are not concerned about. We don't feel uneasy about. We are not preoccupied with them. Suffering to anyone, known or unknown person, matters the same. Suffering to anyone is the same. Whether it is to your own kith and kin, your friend, your father, mother, brother or sister, or to a person outside, it's the same suffering. To include or exclude people suffering around us is a decision left to us to make. Such decisions will prove whether we are for ourselves or for others. We claim to be for others. We are serving the kingdom of God. We are in a mission diocese. We are in a mission country. All that blah blah doesn't work sometimes when it comes to touch your personal time and energy and all that. Number 4, confronted with the situation of the poor man on the roadside, the characters of the parable change. There is no distinction between the Judean or Jewish man and Samaritan, priest and merchant at the scene of the wounded man. Now there are only two kinds of people. Who are they? Those who care for someone who is wounded and those who pass by. Those who bend down to help and those who look the other way and hurry off. This is a moment of truth. Many times we pass by. We hear somebody sick somewhere very far off. Oh, it doesn't concern me. All labels, masks, positions fall away. Are we prepared to bend down to assist another to stand up? Are we willing to soil our clothes by bending down to touch and heal the wounds of my brother or sister outside? This is a great challenge and we have to face head on. In times of crisis, decision making is urgent. Anyone who is neither a robber nor a passerby is either an injured person or one carrying an injured person on his or her shoulders. If you don't belong to the category of a robber or the passersby, Levite and a priest, either you are injured or you are helping the other who is injured. So only these two categories remain. The fifth point is, one disturbing detail does stand out in the parable. The two passers-by were religious and devoted to the worship of God, a priest and a Levite. This detail should not be overlooked. It shows very clearly that belief in God and worship of God do not guarantee a person is living a life pleasing to God. Just because you are a sister, you are a father, does not guarantee that you are living a life according to the plan of God. It does not guarantee. A believer may live in his or her own imaginary world that he is closer to God than many others, while not living a life that his or her faith demands of him or her. A believer may think, I go to mass, I recite rosary, even the religious priest, I do my duties, and I don't care. I sit comfortably in my room. I do my word duty. That is the end of it. That is how I spread the kingdom of God. A believer may think, a priest or a sister may think. On the other hand, a person who does not claim to be a believer may live a life that is pleasing to God. The guarantee of authentic openness to God is the way of practicing the faith that helps to open our hearts to our brothers and sisters. We are ever willing to embellish our altars and churches very grand, spending lakhs of rupees, but reluctant to to spare something for a better future of a poor family. Is it not true? We spend lakhs of rupees embellishing our churches and altars and sanctuaries and different things, but we don't have money to spare something to uplift a poor family. The sixth point is the Samaritan who stopped on the way to assist the wounded man was back on his journey without any expectation of recognition or gratitude. He just went and helped the person wounded. He did not expect a thank you from the person wounded. He did his duty and on his way back. Prompted by his heart and listening to the inner voice, he helped the wounded man, which gave him great satisfaction in his life and blessings from God. He was satisfied that he could save a person. All of us have a responsibility to the wounded, not only of our own, but of all our brothers and sisters in the world. Let us care for the needs of every man and woman, young and old, with the same fraternal spirit of care and closeness the Good Samaritan possessed. Can we become Good Samaritan in all aspects? Can we possess the spirit of the Good Samaritan? In the context of our country and the various events of atrocity, pain and suffering we have seen of late in Manipur, in other places, we have a great opportunity to express our sense of fraternity, to be good Samaritans who bear the pains of other people's troubles and thus becoming witnessing missionaries. It is this that makes all of us spiritual listeners with an open heart, bringing God's transcendental presence amidst the troubled situations of our wounded world. Thank you. I once again thank Father Harry for giving me this opportunity to share with you some of my reflections, and I appreciate your kind listening. Thank you.